Wehrmacht Headquarters, East Prussia. General Oberst Alfred Jodl reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the collapsing Western Front with the confidence of a man who understood military mathematics. His staff had calculated every variable. Allied supply lines now stretched over 400 miles from the Normandy beaches to Patton's spearheading Third Army. The Americans have outrun their logistics, Jodl announced to his assembled officers. Patton will halt within days, perhaps hours. No army in history has sustained such advanced speeds without fuel. The calculation seemed inescapable. An armored division consumed 150,000 gallons of fuel daily when advancing. The Americans were now 400 miles from their supply depots. Every German general in that room had learned this lesson the hard way in Russia, where their own blitzkrieg had foundered not from Soviet resistance, but from the simple tyranny of distance. What Jodl didn't know was that 125 miles away, 5,958 trucks were already rolling eastward in an endless convoy, headlights blazing in defiance of every military doctrine he understood. The Red Ball Express was about to teach the Wehrmacht that industrial America played by different rules entirely. But before we understand how the Red Ball Express shattered German military science, we need to understand why the Germans were so confident it would fail. And that story begins not in France, but on the frozen roads of Russia, where German logistics had collapsed under the weight of its own victories. The Russian lesson. Winter 1941, outside Moscow. General Oberst Heinz Guderian, the father of German armored warfare, watched his panzer divisions grind to a halt not from Soviet tanks, but from something far more prosaic. His trucks were freezing solid. The Wehrmacht had conquered most of Europe using a logistics system that seemed impressive by European standards. But Russia revealed its fatal flaw. German military transport still relied on 750,000 horses, yes, horses, pulling wagons that couldn't keep pace with mechanized spearheads. Their trucks, designed for European roads, broke down on Russian mud and froze in Russian winter. Guderian wrote in his diary, "The advance has stopped. Not from enemy action, but from something far more humiliating. We have fuel 200 miles behind us, but no way to bring it forward. Our trucks cannot move. Our horses are dying. My tanks sit immobile with empty gas tanks, and Russian T-34s are closing in." When panzer divisions that had swept across France in weeks found themselves paralyzed after just months in Russia, German generals learned a brutal lesson. Tactical brilliance means nothing if your soldiers can't eat and your tanks can't move. By 1944, the Wehrmacht had become students of logistical failure. They had studied how distance kills armies, how supply lines become vulnerability, how even the mightiest military machine starves without constant feeding. This painful education made German generals absolutely certain of one thing. The Americans, advancing 400 miles in just 30 days, were about to learn the same lesson. General der Panzertruppe Heinrich Freiherr von Luttwitz, commanding XLVII Panzer Corps, composed a detailed analysis in late July 1944. The Americans faced the same logistical impossibility we faced in Russia. Their mechanical advantage becomes their disadvantage. Every machine requires fuel, ammunition, spare parts. They have advanced faster than any army in history. History teaches us what comes next: paralysis. Within 2 weeks, Patton's Third Army will be immobilized. We need only hold our positions. German intelligence meticulously tracked American consumption rates, and the numbers seemed to confirm their analysis. A single Sherman tank, 0.5 miles per gallon on roads, far worse cross-country. Infantry division, 700 tons of supplies daily. Armored division, 1,000 tons daily. Patton's 12 divisions, 12,000 tons daily minimum. Transporting 12,000 tons daily across 400 miles of damaged roads through a transportation network the Germans had systematically destroyed during their retreat seemed physically impossible. General Major Siegfried Westphal, Chief of Staff to Field Marshal von Rundstedt, calculated on August 20th, even if the Americans possessed unlimited trucks, which they don't, and perfect roads, which they don't, and no mechanical failures, which is impossible, they still couldn't sustain Patton's advance more than another 48 hours. Physical laws cannot be violated, not even by American industry. The Germans were about to discover that Americans didn't violate physical laws. They simply overwhelmed them with industrial abundance that German military science had never conceived possible. August 25, 1944. A requisitioned French chateau near Laval. Lieutenant Colonel Gordon Ayers of the Motor Transport Service faced a room full of skeptical officers. The maps on the table told a stark story. Patton's Third Army was consuming supplies faster than any army in history, advancing at speeds that defied all logistical planning. Traditional supply methods had collapsed. Railways? The Germans had destroyed them systematically during retreat. Scheduled convoys? Too slow, too vulnerable. Depot-to-depot distribution? Creating more bottlenecks than solutions. Gentlemen, Ayers announced, we're going to do something that's never been attempted in military history. We're creating a one-way highway from Cherbourg to the front lines. Every vehicle will run 20 hours out of 24. No stopping except for gas and emergencies. We'll move 12,500 tons daily minimum. A colonel from the Quartermaster Corps interrupted, that's impossible. Those numbers would require, what, 6,000 trucks operating at 90% availability? No logistics system in history has maintained those rates. Then we'll make history, Ayers replied. But here's what Ayers didn't say in that meeting, what couldn't be said in 1944 America. The men who would make this miracle possible would be predominantly African American soldiers, serving in a still segregated army, driving the trucks that would keep the most celebrated white generals' armies in motion. This unspoken reality would add another dimension to the Red Ball Express story, one that would ultimately help dismantle the very segregation that made it necessary. The name Red Ball Express came from railroad terminology. A red ball freight was an express shipment that took priority over everything else. The Red Ball Express would operate on the same principle. Absolute priority, no delays, no exceptions. The technical specifications defied everything German military doctrine taught. 2 parallel one-way highways, one loaded, one empty. 24-hour operations with headlights blazing. No stop policy except fuel and mechanical failure. 5-minute convoy intervals at 35 miles per hour average. MP checkpoints removing any vehicle below 25 miles per hour. Mobile maintenance every 50 miles. Colonel Charles O. Thrasher reviewed the numbers and shook his head. We need 140 truck companies, 5,958 vehicles minimum. That's operationally impossible by any textbook ever written. Good thing we're not following textbooks, Ayers replied. We're inventing something new. Within 36 hours, the impossible was operational. August 26, 1944, 0600 hours. Private First Class James Jimmy Crawford of the 3,916th Quartermaster Truck Company climbed into his GMC CCKW 2.5-ton truck, the Deuce and a Half, loaded with 105mm artillery shells bound for Patton's guns 300 miles east. Crawford was 19 years old, from Detroit and African American. In civilian life, his father couldn't get a factory job at the very GM plant that built this truck. Now Jimmy was driving GM's finest product into history. He had painted a slogan on his truck door, Hitler's hearse, next stop Berlin. Behind him, 67 more trucks lined up at 5-minute intervals. Behind them, thousands more. The Red Ball Express was rolling. What German reconnaissance would report over the next 24 hours would seem like fantasy. August 27, 1944. German positions overlooking the main Red Ball route. Lieutenant Klaus Weber of Aufklärung Reconnaissance, 116 radioed his division headquarters. Continuous vehicle column, headlights visible for 20 kilometers. No spacing between vehicles, no blackout discipline. I count over 1,000 vehicles per hour. The Americans have either gone insane or they're not afraid of us anymore. His commander demanded clarification. You mean 100 vehicles? No, Herr Oberstleutnant. 1,000 per hour. The road looks like a glowing snake. They're not even trying to hide. This violated everything German doctrine taught. Headlights invited air attack. Continuous columns presented perfect artillery targets. No spacing meant a single disabled truck could halt an entire convoy. Yet the Americans seemed utterly unconcerned. General der Panzertruppe Edgar Feuchtinger, commanding 21st Panzer Division, personally observed the Red Ball Express from concealed positions on August 30th. His report to Army Group B revealed alarm. The enemy operates a supply system beyond our comprehension. Vehicles pass at 30-second intervals, day and night, without pause. They don't hide, don't disperse, don't follow any doctrine we understand. This isn't military science. It's mass production applied to warfare. We are not fighting an army. We are fighting a factory with guns. The Red Ball Express developed its own culture within days, born from exhaustion, determination, and the knowledge that history was being made 1 mile at a time. Private Crawford kept a diary, against regulations, that survived the war. August 28th, 48 hours straight. Can't remember when I slept. Sarge says keep rolling, Patton's boys need shells. My eyes burn from staring at taillights. But every mile I'm thinking about my neighborhood back home, all those whites only signs. Can't drink at their fountains, but I can drive their supplies. Funny how war works. August 30th, passed out at the wheel today. Woke up when Murphy's truck nudged mine from behind. He kept me going straight for 2 miles while I was unconscious. That's how we do this. We don't let each other fail. September 2nd, French kid gave me flowers at a fuel stop. Her mother baked us bread. She hugged me crying saying merci merci. Nobody back home has ever looked at me like that, like I'm a hero. Over here I'm not just the color of my skin. I'm the man bringing liberation. The drivers painted slogans that reflected their spirit. Patton's Blood Bank. Detroit to Berlin Express. Hitler here we come. Tuskegee on wheels. Jim Crow can't stop this crow. They created their own traffic rules. Slower vehicles pulled off immediately. Mechanical failures were pushed into ditches. Any truck below 20 miles per hour was considered a roadblock and removed by MPs with extreme prejudice. Technical Sergeant William Big Bill Henderson became a legend for fixing a broken transmission using parts from 3 different vehicles and a piece of German tank tread, getting his truck back on the road in 37 minutes. Red Ball ain't about perfect, Henderson told a reporter. It's about good enough, fast enough. Germans try to make everything perfect. We just make it work and keep moving. By August 31st, German intelligence had compiled enough data to understand what they were facing, and the implications were shattering. General Major Walter Warlimont assembled his staff at OKW headquarters. Gentlemen, I have reviewed the reconnaissance reports, and I must conclude that either our observers are hallucinating, or we are witnessing something unprecedented in military history. He displayed aerial photographs. The Americans have fuel dumps larger than our entire strategic reserves. They burn more gasoline just moving gasoline than we allocate to entire panzer divisions. They have abandoned 500 trucks along their routes, simply abandoned them, and their capacity has increased, not decreased. He paused, letting that sink in. This isn't war as we understand it. It's industrial overflow. The Americans aren't trying to defeat us militarily. They're drowning us in material. A young officer asked, "Her General Major, what is their source? Where do these supplies come from?" Warlimont pointed to another photograph, this one showing ships unloading at French ports. They come from America, a nation with more trucks than we have soldiers, more fuel than we have ammunition. They're not fighting with what they have. They're fighting with their entire industrial capacity. The uncomfortable silence in the room spoke volumes. For the first time, senior German officers were confronting a truth their ideology had hidden from them. They weren't losing to better tactics or braver soldiers. They were losing to a more powerful economic system. By September 5th, German intelligence had compiled comprehensive statistics on Red Ball operations. What they discovered defied their understanding of what was logistically possible. First week results, August 25th to 31st. Total tonnage delivered, 89,939 tons. Daily average, 12,848 tons. Round-trip distance, 686 miles. Vehicle rotations, 5,958 trucks making 1.5 trips daily. Fuel consumed by Red Ball itself, 300,000 gallons daily. German logistics specialists captured these numbers from American documents and initially dismissed them as propaganda. But intercepted radio communications and direct observation confirmed them. The Red Ball Express was consuming 300,000 gallons of fuel daily just for its own operations, more than entire German armies received for all purposes. Yet fuel never ran short. The Americans had created Operation PLUTO, pipeline under the ocean, laying fuel pipelines across the English Channel that German intelligence hadn't even detected. By September 1944, fuel flowed through underwater pipes directly from England to France. Forward fuel dumps were established every 25 miles along the Red Ball route. Tanker trucks ran their own parallel convoy system. ensuring no vehicle waited more than 10 minutes for refueling. General Major Wehrmacht observed from aerial reconnaissance. The Americans have created a circulatory system. Fuel is their blood, trucks are their arteries, and the entire organism functions without apparent central control. Each component knows its function and executes it. This is beyond what we can counter with military tactics. What amazed German observers was how the Red Ball Express solved problems in real time, with improvisations that would have required weeks of planning in the Wehrmacht. When trucks broke down, approximately 1,800 daily, mobile maintenance units performed roadside triage. 15 minutes to fix or push off the road. Parts cannibalized from unrepairable vehicles. Engines swapped in 45 minutes using mobile cranes. When the designated route became congested, drivers created alternatives. Commandeered French buses for personnel. Captured German vehicles, painted olive drab, pressed into service. Built bypasses around destroyed bridges using rubble as roadbed. The Germans, observing this controlled chaos, couldn't comprehend how it produced order. German doctrine emphasized careful planning and proper procedures. The Americans violated every principle, yet their system accelerated rather than collapsed. Captain Ernst Hoffmann, captured in early September, told his interrogators, "Your system is madness. You waste everything: fuel, vehicles, men's sleep. You have no discipline, no proper maintenance schedules. Yet somehow, impossibly, it works better than our carefully planned logistics. I don't understand your country." But behind the statistics and German amazement was a human story of extraordinary sacrifice that official histories often glossed over. Private Crawford's diary, September 10th. Haven't slept in bed for 4 days. Sleep in the truck while someone else drives, then take over. Living on Benzedrine, coffee, and willpower. Murphy crashed yesterday, fell asleep, hit a tree. He's okay, but his truck is done. They pulled him out, put him in another truck 10 minutes later. That's Red Ball. You don't stop moving until you physically can't. Jenkins had a breakdown 2 days ago. Started crying, couldn't stop. We covered for him, told the officers he had dysentery. Let him sleep for 18 hours. He's back now, but his hands still shake. We all got the shakes. Don't know how long we can keep this up. But then I think about those boys on the front line. They're not asking how tired we are. They're asking where their ammunition is. So we drive. The casualty statistics told their own story. 300 drivers killed in accidents during Red Ball operations. Trucks colliding in fog. Overturned on damaged roads. Burned when overheated engines ignited. Drivers falling asleep and crashing. Yet morale remained extraordinarily high. These men understood they were making history. They were proving Hitler's racial theories wrong with every mile driven, every ton delivered. Sergeant First Class Robert Johnson wrote to his wife, "The Germans think we're inferior because of our skin. Every mile I drive, I'm proving them wrong. Every delivery I make, I'm showing the world what we can do when given the chance. This isn't just about winning the war. It's about winning respect." September 8, 1944. The Red Ball Express faced its greatest challenge. Patton's Third Army had advanced so far, now nearly 450 miles from the beaches, that even the Red Ball struggled. Round trips exceeded 700 miles. Drivers were collapsing. Vehicles were disintegrating. German intelligence detected the strain immediately. General der Panzertruppe Otto von Manschufel reported, "American supply lines show signs of collapse. Convoy intervals have increased from 5 to 15 minutes. Vehicle speed has decreased from 35 to 28 miles per hour. This is our opportunity to counterattack before they can resupply." The German High Command prepared orders for a major offensive, confident that the Americans had finally reached their culminating point. They were wrong. Within 72 hours, American adaptability struck again. The Red Ball Express reorganized on the fly. New procedures implemented. Created intermediate transfer points, cutting individual runs to 350 miles. Implemented driver rotation systems with mandatory 8-hour rest periods. Established forward maintenance bases with heavier equipment. Doubled the number of assigned vehicles from 6,000 to 12,000. Created a tiered priority system for critical supplies. By September 12, tonnage delivery had actually increased from 12,000 to 14,500 tons daily. The crisis that should have halted Patton only made the system stronger. Generaloberst Alfred Jodl, reviewing these reports at OKW headquarters, slumped in his chair. They were failing. We saw them failing. And somehow they turned failure into greater success. How do we fight an enemy that becomes stronger when it should become weaker? No one in the room had an answer. Supplementing the Red Ball Express, the Americans implemented another logistics solution Germans deemed impossible: large-scale aerial supply. C-47 transport aircraft began delivering critical supplies directly to forward units, each carrying 3 tons. On September 16, Wehrmacht observers counted 900 transport flights in a single day, delivering 2,700 tons by air. The Luftwaffe, at its peak effort during Stalingrad, had managed 300 tons daily and considered that maximum effort. The Americans used transport aircraft like trucks. No fighter escort concerns, no fuel limitations. They assumed losses and overwhelmed them with numbers. Oberst Wolfgang Pickert, former commander of Luftwaffe air supply operations, reviewed these figures in stunned disbelief. They're flying in supplies as a supplement to their ground logistics. We tried this in Russia as a desperate replacement. They do it casually as an additional capacity. The scale of American operations is beyond our comprehension. What baffled German observers was the command structure, or apparent lack thereof. In the Wehrmacht, logistics decisions of this magnitude required approval from field marshal level or higher. Changes to supply routes needed weeks of planning and multiple layers of authorization. The Red Ball Express operated differently. Junior officers made decisions reserved for generals in the Wehrmacht. Sergeants commanded operations larger than German colonels managed. Sergeant Henderson, the legendary mechanic, was interviewed after the war. Nobody asked permission for anything. I saw a bridge was gonna collapse. I organized a crew. We tore down a barn and built a bypass in 6 hours. No officer told me to do it. I just did it. That's how Red Ball worked. See a problem, fix it, keep moving. German staff officers captured these stories during interrogations and struggled to believe them. Hauptmann Friedrich Stein told his interrogators, "Your logistics operated without apparent central control. Every lieutenant acted like a general, every sergeant like a colonel. Chaos should have resulted. Instead, you achieved efficiency we couldn't match with rigid hierarchy. I don't understand how your military functions." The American intelligence officer smiled. "That's why you lost, Captain." November 1944. The first snow fell across northern France. German doctrine stated that wheeled logistics became impossible below -10 degrees Celsius. The Wehrmacht's own experience in Russia had proven this painfully. Trucks froze. Oil congealed. Mechanical failures skyrocketed. Surely the Germans thought, surely this would finally stop the Red Ball Express. But the Red Ball didn't stop. It adapted. Drivers wrapped chains on tires, poured alcohol in radiators, kept engines running at stops. Speeds dropped from 35 to 15 miles per hour, but tonnage delivery continued. Private Crawford's diary, December 3rd. Ice everywhere. Lost 3 trucks today to slide-offs. But we keep rolling. Hands so cold I can't feel the steering wheel. Use my jacket to grip it. Other guys use socks on their hands. Whatever works. Saw a German POW crew watching us yesterday. They looked amazed. One of them said in broken English, "You drive in this?" "Yes, Fritz, we drive in this. We drive in everything." German observers reported ice-covered convoys moving through blizzards that had stopped panzer divisions. General Major Westphal wrote in his final assessment, "The Americans have created a logistics system that functions regardless of weather, terrain, or enemy action. It isn't elegant or efficient by our standards, but it's unstoppable. That makes it superior." By November 16, 1944, advancing railheads began to reduce Red Ball requirements. The operation that was supposed to last 10 days had continued for 82 days. The final statistics were staggering. Red Ball Express final numbers. 82 days of continuous operation. 412,193 tons of supplies delivered. 222 million ton miles. 5,958 vehicles average, peak, 12,000. 23,000 total drivers employed. 700,000 gallons of fuel consumed daily. 300 drivers killed in accidents. 5,000 plus vehicles destroyed or abandoned. But numbers alone don't capture what the Red Ball Express achieved. It destroyed something more important than German supply lines. German confidence. Field Marshal Walter Model wrote in his final report before capture, "We were not defeated primarily by American tanks or planes. We were defeated by American trucks." The Red Ball Express proved that in modern war, logistics is strategy. We learned this lesson too late. The success of the Red Ball Express created pressure that would reverberate for decades. General Eisenhower, visiting Red Ball operations in September 1944, witnessed the contradiction firsthand. His aide, Captain Harry Butcher, recorded in his diary, "The general stood watching colored drivers who'd been at it for 20 hours straight. He said, 'These men are winning the war as surely as any infantry. We need to reconsider many things.'" I believe he was referring to our segregation policies. 3 years later, President Truman would issue Executive Order 9981, desegregating the military. The Red Ball Express hadn't caused that change alone, but it had made the arguments for segregation much harder to defend. How do you tell a man he's not good enough to eat in your restaurant when he just drove 48 hours straight to keep your army supplied? Sergeant Johnson, interviewed in 1994, put it simply, "We proved something in France that should have been obvious all along. Give us the tools, give us the mission, and we'll get it done." The Red Ball was our combat, and we won it decisively. That's what I tell my grandchildren. Your grandpa helped win World War II, driving a truck at 35 miles per hour. Perhaps the most profound impact of the Red Ball Express was on German prisoners of war who witnessed it firsthand. Thousands of German soldiers were pressed into service as laborers, loading and unloading Red Ball trucks. For many, it shattered their worldview. Gefreiter Hans Muller, captured at Metz, later wrote, "I was taught that blacks were inferior, incapable of technical work, lacking discipline. Then I watched African American sergeants calculate weight distributions faster than our engineers, organize loading operations larger than anything I'd seen in the Wehrmacht, and treat us prisoners fairly despite what we'd been taught about racial behavior. One sergeant, I remember his name was Henderson, he showed me how to properly balance a load. He was patient, treated me like a student, not an enemy. He shared his cigarettes. When I asked why he was kind to a German prisoner, he said, 'War's almost over. We're all just trying to get home.' That conversation destroyed everything I'd been taught about race. How could this inferior man be more technically skilled, more organizationally competent, and more morally decent than me? The Nazi racial theories couldn't explain it. So the theories were wrong. German POWs would stand at prison camp fences, counting passing Red Ball trucks. Some wept. They understood what it meant. Not just that Americans could supply their armies, but that they could waste more than Germans could produce. They were watching their entire worldview collapse, one truck at a time. Military historians universally recognize the Red Ball Express as the decisive logistics operation of the European theater. The counterfactual is clear. Without the Red Ball Express, Patton's advance stops at the Seine in late August. Paris falls 3 to 4 weeks later. German forces successfully establish winter defensive lines. War continues into summer 1945 or beyond. Casualties on all sides increase by hundreds of thousands. With the Red Ball Express, Patton crashes through German positions at speed. Paris liberated by late August. Allied armies reach German border by October. War ends May 1945. The operation validated American military doctrine that emphasized logistics over tactics. While German officers studied Clausewitz and battlefield maneuver, Americans studied Detroit assembly lines and railroad timetables. The Red Ball Express demonstrated that in modern warfare, the ability to supply forces determines victory more than tactical brilliance. General George S. Patton, whose Third Army was the primary beneficiary, wrote in his memoirs, "The truck drivers of the Red Ball Express deserve as much credit for the defeat of Germany as any combat unit. Without them, Third Army doesn't move. Without movement, we don't win. They drove through exhaustion, through mechanical failure, through weather that stopped armor. History must record this truth." An unexpected consequence of the Red Ball Express was its revolutionary impact on post-war civilian logistics. Thousands of drivers returned to America with experience operating the world's largest transportation network. Despite facing continued discrimination at home, these veterans founded trucking companies and designed modern logistics systems. Companies like Yellow Freight, Roadway, and Consolidated Freightways were started by Red Ball veterans who applied military logistics to civilian commerce. They had learned in France that volume beats efficiency, speed beats perfection, and if you can keep trucks rolling 24 hours, you can move the world. The American interstate highway system, conceived in the 1950s, was directly influenced by Red Ball veterans and their understanding of how high-speed, high-volume road networks could transform national logistics. Technical Sergeant Henderson founded Henderson Freight in 1947, which became one of the first successful black-owned trucking companies. Everything I learned in France I used in business. Keep the trucks rolling, maintain redundancy, fix problems fast, don't wait for perfection. The Red Ball taught me that logistics is about momentum. Stop moving and you lose. On September 15, 1944, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, Supreme German Commander in the West, received comprehensive intelligence on the Red Ball Express. After studying the reports for hours, he summoned his staff. "Gentlemen," he announced, "we face something beyond military solution. The Americans have created a supply system that makes distance irrelevant. Our entire strategy assumed a culminating point, where advancing forces outrun their supplies. That point doesn't exist for them. They have revolutionized warfare, and we are fighting the last war." His operations officer, Oberst Hans Speidel, suggested interdicting the Red Ball routes with remaining Luftwaffe assets. Von Rundstedt's response revealed complete understanding. "With what shall we interdict? They have 6,000 trucks. If we destroy 1,000, which we cannot, they'll replace them in a week. We'd need to destroy 200 trucks daily just to match their production. We don't have 200 operational aircraft total. We have already lost this war." The Red Ball Express is simply making that truth visible. The room fell silent. A field marshal had just stated what everyone knew but no one would say. Germany was defeated not by superior soldiers or brilliant tactics, but by superior industrial capacity. Behind every statistic were human beings who pushed themselves beyond normal limits. Corporal John L. Houston drove continuously for 48 hours, delivering ammunition to the 2nd Armored Division at Cambrai. He fell asleep at the wheel 3 times but continued after being revived by other drivers. He delivered his cargo on time, then collapsed and slept for 22 hours straight. Private Booker T. Washington, yes, his parents named him after the educator, had his truck catch fire from overheated brakes while carrying medical supplies. Instead of abandoning it as procedure required, he drove the burning vehicle 2 miles to a field hospital, jumping out as flames reached the cab. The supplies saved wounded soldiers from both armies. These stories, multiplied thousands of times, revealed American military culture to observing Germans. Individual initiative, calculated risk-taking, mission accomplishment over regulatory compliance. Desperately, German forces attempted to create their own version during the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. Operation Greif included plans to use captured American trucks to create German supply lines. The effort failed immediately. German drivers couldn't maintain American speeds. German mechanics couldn't repair American equipment fast enough. German fuel supplies couldn't sustain consumption rates. Most fundamentally, Germans couldn't replicate the American attitude of unlimited resources. Oberst Otto Skorzeny, commanding the operation, reported, "We captured 50 American trucks. Within a week, 30 were deadlined. Americans would have replaced them. We tried to repair them. That difference explains our defeat." In May 1945, captured German logistics officers were required to study Red Ball operations for historical records. Their conclusions were unanimous and devastating to German military pride. General der Infanterie Friedrich Schultz summarized, "The Red Ball Express represents warfare we never imagined. Americans created a temporary civilization. Thousands of men, thousands of vehicles, millions of tons moving through a system that existed only to feed armies, then dissolved when no longer needed. We built permanent infrastructure over years. They created superior temporary systems in days. This is what defeated us." The most insightful analysis came from General Heinz Guderian, father of German armored warfare. "We invented blitzkrieg but never solved its fundamental limitation: logistics. Americans solved it through industrial excess we deemed impossible. The Red Ball Express was not a supply line but a flowing river of material that drowned our forces. In future wars, the nation that can best supply its forces will win regardless of tactical skill. America understood this. We learned it too late. The Red Ball Express cost the United States approximately $100 million in 1944. Vehicles destroyed, fuel consumed, roads damaged, French compensation claims. German staff officers, accustomed to managing scarcity, found the figure incomprehensible. Yet Americans considered it cheap. The operation enabled the capture of 400,000 German soldiers, the liberation of France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, and shortened the war by an estimated 6 months. Each day of war cost America $250 million. The Red Ball Express paid for itself in a single day of shortened conflict. Lieutenant General John C.H. Lee, commanding logistics for the European theater, stated, "We wore out 5,000 trucks and exhausted 23,000 men to destroy the German army in France. In any previous war, that would be catastrophic loss. In American industrial war, it's acceptable overhead." On November 28, 1994, on the 50th anniversary of the Red Ball's conclusion, the United States Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp honoring the operation. Veterans who attended the ceremony spoke of their pride in an operation that had been overshadowed by combat operations but proved equally decisive in Allied victory. Private James Crawford, now 69 years old, spoke for many. "We were black soldiers mostly. Segregated, discriminated against, denied recognition during the war. But we delivered victory at 35 miles per hour. We proved that if you give people the tools and the mission, they'll get it done regardless of the color of their skin. That's what I'm proudest of, not just that we won the war but how we proved the racists wrong 1 mile at a time." The highways of France still bear the scars of the Red Ball Express. Ruts worn by overloaded trucks, bridges hastily repaired, roadsides where thousands of vehicles were abandoned. But the greatest monument to the operation isn't physical. It's the speed of Allied victory. Every day the war shortened saved thousands of lives. The Red Ball Express shortened it by months. The last word belongs to a German officer whose name is lost to history, quoted by a Red Ball driver at the 1994 commemoration. Standing beside a road in Belgium in September 1944, watching the endless convoy of American trucks, the officer said in accented English to his captors, "We prepared for everything. Your tanks, your planes, your ships. We never prepared for your trucks. How do you defeat an enemy who has more trucks than you have soldiers? An enemy who can waste more resources than you can produce? An enemy whose inferior racial minorities perform logistics miracles your superior race cannot match?" The answer rolled past him at 5-minute intervals, driven by exhausted Americans who were rewriting the rules of warfare, one delivery at a time. The Red Ball Express transformed logistics into strategy, supply into victory, and trucks into the most decisive weapon of the European war. The German generals stopped laughing when they understood this truth. But by then, Patton was already at their gates, supplied by the greatest logistics operation in military history, delivered by 23,000 mostly African-American drivers who proved that in modern warfare, the side with the most trucks beats the side with the best tactics. At 35 miles per hour, they drove toward victory. And history has never been the same.